To Pennsylvania Ballet Spring Annual Lunch. Alice, Donovan, and Day and I are the co-chairs of this wonderful event, and we're also board members of Pennsylvania Ballet, and we would typically be welcoming you at the Academy of Music, and we would have flowers and lunch, and we would give you hugs and welcome you to this incredible event benefiting Pennsylvania Ballet. However, these are not typical times, as you know. So we are greeting you from our living rooms and our homes, and we are so grateful for you and for your support of Pennsylvania Ballet, because as you know, in these atypical times, we need your support more than ever. And so you being here is such a treat and a joy. And we also have ways you can support even more. And that is by our auction. So you'll be receiving updates on your phone. So make sure you have your cell phone by you so that you can bid on wonderful auction items and support the ballet. I would also love to introduce the two wonderful speakers we have for today, and it's a treat. We have Melissa Magee, a dear friend of mine from 6 ABC News. She's a meteorologist, and she also hosts FYI Philly. And that's a lifestyle show, and she gets to interview huge personalities, often professional athletes sometimes, and coaches. And what I will tell you about Melissa is that not only does she have a deep appreciation of athletes, she is an athlete herself. She and I trained together to climb the Eiger Trail in Switzerland. And she also has a hidden desire to be a dancer. She's taking salsa lessons. So when she had the opportunity to interview Angel Corella, who is the artistic director at Pennsylvania Ballet and a famed and renowned dancer himself, she was delighted. So thank you, Melissa, for being here. And she will have the opportunity to speak with Angel. And Angel is truly, in the world of dance, an absolute icon. And we are so incredibly fortunate to have him at Pennsylvania Ballet. And what is astounding about Angel is that he not only was a renowned dancer and had an incredible career, 17 years at American Ballet Theater. He danced for 3 presidents, Queen Sofia in Spain, his hometown country. He's from Madrid, and also Queen Elizabeth. But he is a rare person because he was able to make the move from being a professional athlete to coaching. And not only coaching and being a good coach, but being the best. And he is remarkable in everything that he does. The dancers have wonderful respect for him, and he has created truly a ballet that is respected internationally in Pennsylvania. So we are so fortunate to have him. Before we get to Angel and Melissa, I want to make sure that you all look down on your screen and you'll see Q&A. You will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So just log on to the Q&A and you can type your question in there. And again, I'm so grateful that you're all here. It's such a delight. And it gave us all something to dress up for and celebrate. And the arts in Philadelphia are so critically important. They're important now. They're important for the future and for the future of and sustainability of our city, Philadelphia. So thank you all. And without further ado, I will pass it over to Melissa and Angel.
Thank you, Liz. And Angel, it's a pleasure to see you again virtually and to see everyone here virtually as well. This is going to be exciting.
It's definitely my pleasure. Yeah, thank you so much. As you can see, I've made the Academy of Music my apartment, my house, my home for the time being. But it is very exciting to reconnect with all of you, even from home, because I think not being able to be at the theater and not being able to see all the people's faces, and to be able to at least connect this way, it makes it very special. So thank you for making it happen, and thank you to Liz and Alice for putting all of this together. I think it was a very special thing.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to talk to you. As Liz mentioned, I do love to dance. And yes, I am taking salsa and bachata right now. But when I was little, I've always wanted to be a dancer. I just find the lines and the technicality and just the creativity of dance and just the beauty and just creating so wonderful. I couldn't exactly get some of the steps right, so I became a cheerleader instead. But dancing is in my bones. So it's so fun to be with you this morning.
Oh, thank you. No, I think that everyone has a little bit of dancer inside. You can choose any kind of discipline, but even though I always say the way that you express yourself, the way you use your hands, the way you use your eyes, it's a way of dancing and it's a way of saying who you are. So I think a lot of people take it for granted. Even when you put on music at home, your body wants to move to that music. It's a way of expressing our personality. So I always say that you say more with your body language than with your words. Sometimes your words are not saying what you really are, or who you really are. And through dancing or body movement, it does. So yeah.
Well, let's get into it, Angel. Let's talk about the background just a little bit, because unlike many other art forms, dance is taught person to person and generation to generation. And while choreographed notes might be written down, the teaching and the coaching is done in a very personal way. And many of the ballets have been passed from generation to generation. And like Liz did with your introduction, you are the artistic director for the Pennsylvania Ballet. This is your sixth season with the ballet. You've performed many of the classics like Swan Lake. You were Prince Siegfried in Swan Lake, Romeo and Romeo and Juliet, the Nutcracker Prince and the Nutcracker. You've also performed for Queen Elizabeth II, Sophia of Spain, Presidents Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama. You have got quite the resume here, and you're really unique in the position that you are in, going from once dancer to now coach. And we're going to get into all of that. But I guess to address what's going on around us, this pandemic, and how we have all been quarantining right now, what has that been like for you in your life?
Well, it has been very challenging. I mean, mainly because when you're a dancer, when you're a coach, or when you're an artistic director, there's very little you can do from home. Dance is very, you have to have contact with your colleagues. You have to have contact. I mean, most of it is pas de deux, so you have to dance with your partner. So it's really, it's been very, very challenging and very eye-opening of how important our work is to be human to human, like being in contact with each other. So now what we actually started a new sort of a project to see how it would be to actually try to be coaching from home. So we have all the dancers in their apartments. We got them a little dance mat from what the material that we use for the stage and for the rehearsal studios, thanks to one of our board members, Sarah Marshall, that she actually donated to all the dancers these dance mats. So then what we're doing is we're doing virtual rehearsals where we all connect, and it's a little bit challenging because with the delay of the timing, you're correcting someone and then that someone is already doing something else. But it was a way to reconnect and to try to do something back together, and to at least start planning for our next season, what we're going to be dancing, I mean, as soon as we know a little bit more from the CDC, what the situation is going to be with the theaters, then that way we can start planning and we can start rehearsing in advance to prepare the next season. But it is very challenging. It is very challenging. So, you take for granted that being able to be in the same room, but we have to be very we have to think of the safety of our dancers first. When we get a cold in the studios, everyone gets a cold. If there's any kind of virus, everyone gets the virus, because we're very close contact with each other. We're breathing to each other. We're sweating with each other. So I mean, it sounds a little bit gross, but that's what what our jobs are. We're working with our bodies, so we wanted to be safe, and it was really sad to have to cancel those shows at the end of the season. Um,
Right.
it was,
But of course, it was in the interest of everybody's safety to do
yeah,
so.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was. I mean, the whole company was already on stage getting ready for that evening show, and we had to gather the whole company, everyone, orchestra, and then tell them that the show was canceled and that the rest of the shows were going to be canceled. And dancers were crying, everyone, because we really didn't know what it was going to be happening. For some dancers, it was like, well, this is going to be like a cold. Can we just go through it? And we were like, I
Hmm.
don't think this is a cold. I think that this is something a little bit bigger. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was very.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into more of what that has been like for you as a once dancer and coach, and coaching the students here and the dancers and the teacher and the dancers on stage. But I did want to talk about you a little bit more and your background, because you have been said to be one of the most recognizable names in dance. But before that, you're a young boy from Madrid, Spain, and I read an interesting article about you and you getting into dance indirectly from initially taking karate lessons and watching your sister. So can you tell us about that?
Well, back in the day, that's when television, sorry, because you work on television, but our parents, they thought that television, it was going to damage your brain or something like that. So they were really scared because we were in front of on the TV, in front of the TV after school. And my parents didn't think that it was something very healthy to do. So they wanted to take us to do some extracurriculum things to do after school. So the typically was to take the girls to ballet class because that's what they wanted to do, and for the boys either to play soccer or to play karate. Which was very popular at the time because there was Karate Kid. I think the movie just came out. So yeah, they took me to karate, and when I was in class after a week, one of the colleagues in class got his nose broken. I was only 6 years old, so he got his nose broken. He started to bleed and scream, and I got really scared. So I said to my mother that I didn't want to go back. So my mom took me with my sisters to ballet class. She said, "Can you sit here while I do run some errands around the studio?" And I would sit there, and she thought when I come back, he's going to be up on the ceiling because I was really hyperactive. No, I was just sitting down watching until one day I got up and I started to do turns and jumps, and I was all excited. And then the teachers, my mom said, "That's amazing that he can do all of that with only watching class." And she said, "Well, I haven't taught those steps yet."
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, then that's how, I mean, I think it had to be, it was, you know, it was faith. It had to
Hmm.
be, I had to be a dancer. My mom said that I had my pacifier when I was 2 years old. And I used to dance like John Travolta in Saturday Night Live. I mean, Saturday Night Fever. I used to point my finger up. I actually have a photo that is quite funny. But yeah, I guess I was always a dancer. I was always,
Hmm.
since I was a little kid, it was meant to be. So,
Yeah, it was in
and
you.
one of my sisters stopped dancing. The other one continued dancing, and we went into a bigger school because we used to live in a small town outside Madrid in the mountains. Cows, they used to go like walk on the street still. So it was very rural. It was very old fashioned. So my mother took me to a bigger school in Madrid, and then from there I went to New York. There was a couple of times where I wanted to quit dancing because of all the bullying at school. I was, of course, the only dancer in the whole town, probably one of the few in the whole city of Madrid. So it was very challenging. When the kids, they find out that I was a dancer, they used to beat me up and throw rocks at me when I was going home. It was quite ugly. Um,
Mm.
but I loved it so much that and I didn't see anyone. I mean, later on in my life, I did see videos of Rudolf Nureyev and Baryshnikov and all these wonderful dancers. But at the beginning, I never saw any dancer dancing. So it was something that I loved doing. Um, and then I went to New York. I danced with American Ballet Theater for 20 years. I also danced with other companies as a guest artist, like the Royal Ballet, Australian Ballet, the Bolshoi, the Kirov, Tokyo
Wow.
Ballet. So I
So
was,
then over the years, then who influenced you as a dancer and what impact did they have on you?
Well, there has been a lot of great dancers that I used to admire, and I used to look at them and go, wow, that's amazing. But I think that my friends and my family and people surrounding me, those are the biggest influences that I had in my life, because I always tell the dancers now that I'm coaching, you know, you have to dance like you are the person that's showing your personality on stage. Don't try to dance like me or try to dance like anyone else, because it's going to come out fake, because it's not you. So I think that when you really connect with the audience in a very real way, and it's you the one that is performing, artists in general, we have the tendency, even painters, to not copy, but to sort of like, because you're influenced by someone, you try to sort of emulate that until you actually become yourself, and you actually have your own opinions and your own ideas, and you put them into the art. That's when you become special, because you're different. So I think that that's what, when I coach the dancers, what I try to make them understand, that the audience don't want to connect anymore with me. They want to connect with them, because it's their time now and they have to dance. And it is a very generous thing to do. I mean, you have to show who you are. This is who I am, and you know, the people are going to not judge you, but receive you or not receive you, or like what they see or not like what they see. Because if you put on in front of you, oh, I'm a dancer and I'm going to do pretty arms and pretty heads, and I'm going to do a jump and I'm going to do a turn, and everything is going to look beautiful, then you just, you know, when people leave the theater, they're going to say, oh, I saw something pretty, but nothing that it really got to my heart and into my soul. And that's when a dancer really becomes really special and goes up and, you know, up in the stars with all the other great dancers. And it's because they let go of that, and then they become human, and they make the audience be part of what is going on stage.
Yeah, I mean, I have to tell you, when I watch a performance or a show, I get so into it as if like I'm right there and I make all these faces like I'm dancing with them on the stage. And I saw a performance of you from Swan Lake, and you're so graceful but technical and effortless all at the same time. You have been described as charismatic, confident, energetic, explosive in your ability to command the stage. What was it like for you to train as a dancer and then make that pivot from dancing to now coaching dancers?
Well, when I was a dancer, I used to work extremely hard on my technique. So when I went on stage, I could forget about it. So I would work really hard into the turning, into the jumping, into having the right position of the arms, right position of the legs. So when I went on stage, I could forget completely about it. I used to go on stage and not remember absolutely anything that I had done. So I went on stage, I did what I had to do, like my variation, everything, went back, and then tried to remember what I did, but it was all an energy that it came out of me. I did it. It was like almost like a scream, an explosion, and then went out, and then I hear the roaring of the audience going, and calling me back on stage. And I didn't even remember what I did. So that's what I try to make the dancers understand, and what we work on now. We work together into getting them so strong that when they're on stage, they don't have to think about anything other than dance and to let go. And yes, it's a very difficult thing, because when you're on stage, you have your costume, you have the lights, you have the music. There's so many different elements that are scary, because it's some of these technical things are really difficult. Like, you know, when you have to do 5 or 6 turns over one leg, or the ballerinas, they have to do those 32 fouettes with one leg, or you have to do a very difficult jump or a difficult lift with the ballerina. But if you have been trained and you have worked with the dancers enough, then they're more secure when they go on stage, and they don't have to think about it. Now people say, don't you miss dancing? And I say, no, because I'm dancing with them every day. With every single cast. I mean, I'm up there. I mean, I'm either behind at the back of the orchestra sits, and I'm going from side to side, and I'm jumping and I'm going up and down with them, because it's when you spend all that time with them, the process is almost like you were doing it yourself. So it's been an amazing experience to have to let go and to because when you're under control, you're the one that has to do it. But when it's
Yeah.
them, I get a lot more nervous than I did when I was a dancer. I never used to get nervous before the curtain went up, and now I do get nervous because
Uh-huh.
you have to give it to them, and they have to be the ones that they have to perform. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like that energy transfer. You're so excited for them to do well that you get nervous. I can certainly understand that. What
Yeah.
about the hours you put in? I mean, a lot of people think of dance as something separate than what we see on TV with other athletes, like the football players and the baseball and soccer players. It seems like based on the hours you put into your craft, is it same or different for you? Do you see it in a different type of way in terms of being a sports figure or an athlete?
Well, depends on the sports, but we do. I mean, there's something that a lot of people used to say when I was a dancer, and they used to ask me, "What do you do?" And I would say, "I'm a ballet dancer." First, they say, "Are you belly dancer?" No, no, I'm a ballet dancer. But the next thing is like, "Oh, and what is your? I mean, what is your profession really? What is your other profession?" And I would say, "No, I'm a ballet dancer all day. That's all I do." And to be able to do what we do on stage, it requires a lot of hours of training. When some of these movies come out and they say that the actor or the actress, they say, "Oh, I learned how to dance in 8 months." I'm like, yeah, sure. I would like to see that. It takes years of training and years of mastering. And at least until you're 17, 18, you're not really a professional dancer. If you started around 8, so I would say 10, 8 to 10 years of training before you become a professional dancer.
Wow.
And then after that, we start at 9:30 in the morning, and then we finish at 6 in the afternoon. When it's a normal rehearsal day, and when it's a performance day, we usually start a little bit later at 11, and then we have all day of rehearsal on stage in the theater, and then we have the show from 8 to whenever the show finishes. So it's
Wow.
all day long. In some cases, we don't even have time to eat. Because
Wow.
we're all day in the studio. We have to bring our food or run out and get something to eat really quickly because there's a lot of
Mhm.
rehearsal to do.
Yeah, I let's get back to the current state that we're in for a second and being quarantined. You touched on it at the beginning, in terms of training the dancers and different ways you've come up to get creative during this time. Can you just go over that one more time with what you've done differently now that we need to be quarantined and away from others during this time?
Well, we started a weekly class for our Instagram followers. So we have a everyday class. I think it's at 1 o'clock. I teach it on Mondays. So if anyone that is out there that want to follow a ballet class with Pennsylvania Ballet, they can do it at 1 o'clock. We have
Mhm.
all other kinds of activities. So follow us on Instagram or Facebook, and then you can be connected to the ballet all the time. Now we started to teach class with the company at 12 o'clock, and then from 12 we have class from 12 to 1:15, and then after 1:15 we have rehearsals, 4 or 5 hours of rehearsals,
Mhm.
virtual rehearsals during the day. We're starting to plan because some of the ballets that we had planned for the end of this season that we didn't perform at the Academy of Music or at the Marian Theater, we're going to move them to the next season, so the audience can actually experience them and enjoy them on the next season. So we start to rehearse some of those ballets that we already taught the dancers because they were already ready to go. So now we just have to refresh them and get back into them. Like, for example, we were supposed to do a ballet by Stanton Welch, the director of Houston Ballet. He's also a choreographer. We were doing a ballet called Clear.
Mhm.
So we have started rehearsing that. We were rehearsing 2 Balanchine ballets at the same time, Ballet Imperial and Symphony in C. So we're starting to refresh everything that we were supposed to do this season, and we're moving to the next season. So
I see.
on
Now,
top
is there
on top of that, we have millions of Zoom meetings and projects to try to do and to try to stay engaged with our audiences, like this luncheon or many other ways that people can still connect with us and be, you know, part of our family. I know that sounds a little bit cliche, but it is. It does feel like a family.
No, that makes perfect sense. I totally understand that, especially when you're in such close quarters. And now we're physically distant, but we're still staying connected through the interwebs. I do want to ask you though, is there something else that the dancers do outside of rehearsal just to kind of stay in great shape? Are they doing other kinds of exercises? Is that independent of the ballet, just to have that great endurance and stamina when they're on stage performing?
Well, usually when we're not at home and we're not secluded, and usually the dancers they go to the gym. We have this relationship with the Sporting Club. I think that that's the one in Center City, right next to the Academy of Music.
Hmm.
So then that way the dancers can, after a rehearsal at the theater or in the studios, they can jump in and then use the gym, use the steam room, use the swimming pool to do their extra activities after that. Um,
Hmm.
they're dancers that they try other things like Pilates, they try gyrotonics, they try other things that are going to complement your body and to get your body ready for the rehearsal. When I was a dancer, we didn't have all those extra things. I mean, you have the gym, of course. We used to go to the gym all the time to get strong and to get, your muscles, especially your upper body when you're a male dancer, to be able to lift the ballerina. But we didn't used to have Pilates. We didn't used to have gyrotonic. There's a lot of new things. Gyrotonics is like Pilates, but it's circular. Circular.
Oh,
So then that uses different muscles of your body that is going to really help you as a dancer, because as a dancer you don't use the muscles like when you're doing a lift. You use them around because you're using all your body. So that helps a little bit more. But yeah, dancers they try to look for things that are going to help their everyday job. So but now I can see some of them they get very creative, and what the gyms that they create in their homes and how they do their training. We have one of our principal dancers, Sterling Baca. They did this little challenge with all the other dancers from other companies and from our company as well, of doing push-ups with their girlfriends on their backs. So the two of them, they were sitting with each other, and they were asking to each other, what are you in the mood for? And she says, well, I just want to take a nap. And he says, I want to work out. So you see them later with her on his back, taking a nap, and he's doing push-ups on the floor with her and in his back. So yeah, the dancers are getting very creative and how to stay in shape and stay motivated.
excuse me, why I'm looking right into a light, so my eyes are watering. There's no virus or anything. I just
No,
getting a
it's
little teary-eyed. I feel like we need to clarify these days if
sure.
anything's going on with us. I did want to ask you though, there was something written about you, and one of the board co-chairs said, Angel has the power to make Philadelphia one of the most exhilarating dance cities in the world. So moving forward, what is your goal for the Pennsylvania Ballet in terms of dance, style, technique? Are there any changes you're looking to make in the seasons to come?
Well, we're always looking for new choreographers and new things that are going to excite our audiences and our dancers as well. I was very lucky to have danced with all these different companies around the world, and I've seen not only the talent of dancers that we're recruiting here into Philadelphia and into Pennsylvania Ballet, but also choreographers and what type of choreographers they work with the audience and with the dancers, and which ones they don't, or they work differently. So yes, for the future, we would love to bring all these amazing choreographers that we have been bringing, all these incredible dancers, to be able to share with our audiences and to share with our dancers that kind of talent, because you can tell the difference. Even if you don't know anything about ballet, you can tell when you're seeing something of quality and something that is really special on stage. This season, we have three amazing choreographers creating three new ballets for us. Garrett Smith, Juliana Nunes and Jean Jouet. They did 3 beautiful pieces for the company, and that's what it makes us unique, and that's what it makes us different from any other company around the world. And that's why everyone is talking about Pennsylvania Ballet, is the type of choreography that we're doing. We're very eclectic. We do from the big full lengths like Swan Lake or Sleeping Beauty or Romeo and Juliet, this season La Bayadere, to very modern and new, different and new things. So yeah, that's my hope for the future, to be able to continue doing all of that, and to continue to bring all these amazing ballets. They cost a lot of money, and that's why we need, when we ask for support, it's not just to, you know, for anything other than for the dancers, to be able to pay our dancers, and for them to have a good place for them to, so they can feel safe and they can actually rehearse. Right now, our studios are not finished. We only have a quarter of our studio space, so that would be something that we're hoping in the future we can finish. We can finish our building so we can have enough rehearsal studios. We can have physical therapy for the dancers, even to have a sort of like a community space where we can gather all the people that are interested in doing dance, or that they love Pennsylvania Ballet or they love dance, so they can come and be in that studio, in that space. There are so many different things that I would love to do, and I would love to bring for our dancers and our audiences, that there's not enough time and definitely not enough money. So that's why when we ask for support from people, is to be able to do all these amazing things that are not only are going to change the face of dance in our community, but is also going to shape our community, and is going to shape the dynamics of our community. I think Philadelphia is very famous around the world for the arts, and for how much love the love city and friendly city. I think that to be able to attract people because of the arts, like we have been doing, I think that we definitely need to support that. And dance is one of the most important arts in the spectrum and the fan of the arts, music,
Right.
painting, or museums, opera, and of course dance. I think that those are the live arts are the most important, one of the most
I
important.
I agree. I think they're so important in so many ways. It allows you to tap into your creativity, whether it is art, dance, music, and it's so good for your mental health too, just to kind of get out there and create in your own way.
Yeah.
I'm curious on how, because I am a novice, even though in my head I am a dancer. I don't know the difference, and I was just reading up on different techniques and styles. Tell me, and I could be pronouncing it wrong. Ballet style versus modern. Are you guys doing that, or was that once a style?
Yeah, no, there's today dancers. There used to be companies that they did only classical ballet, and then companies that did only modern ballet, modern dance.
Mhm.
Now companies
Mhm.
more and more, then they're merging, and they're doing both. The dancers, they have to be trained in a way that they could do both. They could do very classical, and then we have sometimes rehearsals where when these 3 choreographers that I mentioned before, they were creating the new ballets for us, we were rehearsing at the same time La Bayadere and Don Quixote in a different studio. So the dancers were putting their pointe shoes on, and they were doing Don Quixote. They were doing all these jumps and turns on point. And then they will go to the other studio, and they will take their pointe shoes off, and they have to be very earthy and doing a different movement, like almost rolling on the floor sometimes. And so you have to be a very well trained dancer, and like I said before, you have to be, your body needs to be very well trained, and in a way that you won't get hurt, because that's one of the most dangerous, when your body's moving in a different way. For example, in classical ballet,
Right.
everything is more up and down, so everything is more
Mhm.
straight up, and every movement moves really fast, but it's usually from a position where the top part of your body goes up and the bottom part of your body goes down. So, and everything engages on your stomach. When you're in modern dance, is actually the opposite. The top part goes almost down. Everything is much more earthy and more heavy. So then you're using different type of muscles, and that's when you can get hurt. So you have to be a very well-rounded trained dancer to be able to do both. And we do have, I mean, it's amazing. All the choreographers, they come from all over the world, not just one or two, or every single one. They say the same thing. You know, where do you get these dancers from? I mean, that's amazing that you have not one or two or three talented dancers, but every single dancer in the company is really talented. And in some cases, they come in with a mentality, oh, I'm going to use 3 or 4 or 5 dancers, and then they end up using like 15, 16, 20 dancers, and in some cases 2 casts of those dancers. So
Wow.
it is quite it makes me feel very proud when everyone, I sort of like inflate every time a new choreographer comes in and they say those words to us, and it's almost unanimous. Like, you know, you have amazing dancers in this company, and I'm like, well, thank you. Yes, we know. We do.
That's wonderful. Angel, we've got some questions coming in from the audience, so this will be fun. One is from Tracy Ann. She said she's seen various posts from, forgive me on the pronunciations, but Arian and Jermel, and showing them practicing in their homes. Do you have a space at home for dancing?
Well, me particularly, not so much. I mean, I'm doing most of my coaching and teaching class. I'm teaching also class to the school. Every once in a while, I teach company class, and now I'm taking rehearsals. I do it from the basement of my house. I have a brownstone, and the basement of the brownstone is very empty, so I did my studio space there. But I don't. And most of the dancers, unfortunately, their apartments are not that big, because as dancers, we don't make that much money. So it's if you compare the salary of a dancer with the salary of a sports, you know, or a sports person, it's not even a quarter. But you always have to try to find the space, and you see the dancers again being very creative, holding on to, for example, when we start the class on the bar, so holding on to a bar, you have them holding on to counters, to chairs, to anything that it would be solid enough that they can help them to stay in one leg. So
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you, Tracy Ann, for that question. We've got one from Danielle. She's asking, when things normalize and when the Pennsylvania Ballet, will they keep some of the digital engagement like live classes on Instagram, even when things ease back up post COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually an amazing experience as well, to see how we can connect with our audiences, not only in the theater, but also virtually. I think that this is showing us things that they work, things that we can do on top of what we normally do, that we, when you're caught into the, okay, this is what it works, this is what we've been doing, this is great, then this situation has put us in a place where we have to think. I know that is a word that everyone says, but think outside the box. So think outside our box, the place where we usually, this amazing theater that I have behind. So I think that we're going to be experiencing more and more things that we can do with our social media, with different ways to connect with our followers. So hopefully we will keep doing it. Definitely, if we have the time, we would love to keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. I'm sorry, Anya, go ahead.
No, I said in trying to do even more things if possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are just adapting, like we all do as humans, to this virtual world that we're in. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in many careers, different professions, that this continues. There's a question from Aaron. He's asking, what is the most important thing for you that you try to impart to your dancers, when you're training them? Is there one thing that you feel is most crucial that they take away from training with you?
I think that what I try to share with them is a passion for dance. I think that I think passion for everything in life. You have to have passion to do things. If not, people are not convinced. People are not going to react to anything. So I think that what I try to show is my love for dance and my passion and my respect, and that's what I try to express to the dancers. I mean, it's really hard to say with one word everything that I'm trying to give them. I think that is really important, of course, the technique, to have a very strong technique. When I mean technique, is to be able to do the jumps, to be able to do the turns, the lifts with the ballerina, the leg to be in the right position. But after all of that is to have that real connection with the audience, and to create the art. That is what we're here for. And I think that until you don't actually make that connection, it's not art. It's just self enjoyment. That it could be nice. I mean, you can be in the studio and be dancing around and have fun, but until you don't actually share it with someone, I don't think that. I think the sharing is what it makes it art.
I love that. And I love what you said at the beginning when you said that, you can learn the dance, you can learn the steps, but each person has a different spark, a different feel, a different presence on the stage. So you've got
Yeah.
to learn to be raw and to be you. There's only one, and hell, there's only one Melissa. So
Yeah,
be you.
exactly. Yeah, no, and you can see the same show, the same steps, the same choreography, the same sets and costumes, but be a completely different ballet. I have the chance to see. I mean, I not the chance. Well, yeah, the chance that I'm lucky enough to see every single show that the company does, because I think it's important the director is there all the time. But it's amazing that you see the same show and you know what's going to happen, and you're taken by surprise depending on the show that you see. So that's why I recommend people come to see more than one show. You can see something completely different, even though it's the same steps. So I recommend always people to go and see more than one show, because it could be a completely different feeling.
There was one question from Sherry on there that Saturday Night Fever pose. Can you show us that?
Oh my
Do you have
God.
a picture of that?
Yeah. I don't know if I have it on my computer. It would be one day I'll post it on my social media. So follow me up on social media, and then you might see it. Yeah. I used to drive my mom crazy, and that drive my sisters crazy. I used to dance everywhere. Once I started dancing, uh, um, taking ballet class, I used to go on supermarkets everywhere. I used to be jumping around and dancing, and my mom, her word was like, stop it, stop it. Every time I was like, there was a time where I used to be jumping and doing splits wherever I would be, and knock things down and do all these crazy things when I was a kid. But yeah, I don't do that anymore, even if I wanted to.
I do have a question for you, because you talked about passion, and if you were to compare the sport to a different sport, the income isn't the same, but the passion is there. What do you say for those dancers coming up, or those little kids aspiring to be like you or to be like other dancers? What words of wisdom or advice do you have for them to keep going at it?
I think that if you love it, don't give up. I think that if anything, I would say to the parents or the people that are surrounding them, to support them. I think that is what I was incredibly lucky, that my parents, my mother loved opera, she loved music, she loved dance. So as soon as I say I want to become a ballet dancer, she said, okay, yeah, I would love that. My father was a little bit more like, are you sure that you want to be a dancer? You know that you're going to be having problems at school. And I say, yes, Dad, I want to be a dancer. I love dancing. And then he was very supportive after that. And when I danced my first show at the Metropolitan Opera House, he was crying and sobbing. And I after the show, I could tell that he had been crying, and he was very emotional about it. So I think that the most important thing I would tell to the parents, support your kid, make sure that he's protected, make sure that he's well, because especially if it's a boy, in some cases they do. It makes it a lot harder. There's this notion of, if you're a dancer, that you have to have a certain inclination, sexual inclination. But when you're a kid, you don't even know. I mean, you just want to dance. So I think that is something that I would tell the parents. And I mean, of course, we're not going to make money like a sports person, but being a dancer, it is a profession. I mean, you study, you work.
Absolutely, yeah.
And in some cases, you have a good living and a decent living. So I would say, support your kids as much as you can, because it is important. So
Angel Correa, forgive me. I appreciate your time
All right.
this morning. Any other words you want to leave us with the Pennsylvania Ballet as we move forward into this time, and your hopes after this crisis comes to an end, or at least eases some?
Well, I just hope that I mean everyone is going to be affected by this time, by the coronavirus, not only physically and emotionally, but also economically. And I understand that there's um, a lot of foundations and organizations that are going to be asking for help. And I mean, of course, we're going to be asking for help because to be able to survive, and there's something that it really struck me when September 11 happened of the Twin Towers attack. I was actually in New York, and they were asking for anything from doctors, from any kind of help except for artists or for dancers. And that sort of made me think, how important are we to society? How important are we in moments like now, that what it really is important, it's our doctors, our you know, the people that work in the stores. There's a lot of people that are very important for our society. What is important in artists for us in moments like this? And the answer was the first show that I did right after that September 11 attack, the first show that we did with American Ballet Theater. The whole audience were standing up and they were screaming, and they were so happy to be able to, for an hour and a half, to be transported to a different place where, you know, beauty and a feeling of your soul being rested, your soul being taken care of. It was so needed. So I think that when we're able to all go back to the theater and to be able to share with each other that space, and you know, they say that when the audience are watching a show, that their heartbeats they start to connect with each other. Everyone's heartbeats, they go at the same rhythm at the same time. So I think that is what is such an impact with live performances and with the theater, that is the food for our souls. And I think that we need a lot of food at this moment. So
Amen
I,
to that. I'm
I
with you
hope
on
that we
that. We need
see.
it. One more question on how I didn't see this one from Sherry, then we can kind of wrap things up. Mayerling, is that on the horizon for the Pennsylvania Ballet? Am I butchering that name? Mayerling?
Sorry again.
Is Mayerling? Am I saying that correctly?
Ireland,
Anyone can
yeah,
jump in.
the Battle of
Mayerling.
Ireland.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I mean, I actually have, I was a year ago, I put together 10 seasons, the possibility of 10 seasons, how we would look if we program in advance 10 seasons with ballets that I would love for the company to be able to do, like Mayerling, like Manon, Alice in Wonderland, to bring choreographers like Wayne McGregor back, William Forsythe, Christopher Wilden. There's a lot of great things that I would love to be able for the company to be doing. It would all have to be depending on budget, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that's why we're here this morning, which is running into this afternoon. So, and thank you so much for your time and being so open and candid with us, answering our questions. I'm going to toss it over to Alice with more. Thank you, Angel.
Thank you, Melissa. It was a pleasure, really.
Pleasure. Nice meeting you virtually.
And continue with the dancing.
Yes. Oh, always. I'm always dancing and singing.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Am I on? Hello, everyone. Wasn't that fun? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Alice Donovan Day. I don't think my screen is right here, but here we go. One of the trustees on the board of Pennsylvania Ballet and the co-chair of this wonderful event, along with Liz Harris. This was supposed to be our annual luncheon, so I'm just going to raise a virtual glass of champagne to all of you. Thank you. No matter how many times I hear Angel speak, I'm always fascinated by the scope of his world. The years of commitment, his international influence, and now particularly these behind the scenes stories and all the personal stuff. I love it. Your passion, of course, everyone knows about. It takes a lot of work to create the magic on the stage, and you and the dancers make it look effortless. It's insightful and inspiring. I hope everybody realizes that. I want to have a special thanks to Melissa Magee of 6ABC and to you, Angel, for this very personal interview. And a huge thank you to our benefactors and supporters. Without you, we wouldn't be here. We need you, and we need for you to keep supporting us. So before you go, please go online and place your bids on the incredible items we're offering in the auction. I mean, who doesn't want to have dinner with Angel, or have a walk-on roll, or take all your grandchildren in a special nutcracker package? These are once-in-a-lifetime experiences and opportunities, so please get online and bid. And if there's something that you don't want to bid on, please donate, okay? I just want to remind you all, it's for you that the Pennsylvania Ballet exists. We need you, and we thank you for your continued support. Thank you. So go bid or donate. I think I'm done now.